most people get into film because you're interested. And so giving grace to yourself and to one another that it will take time with anything. If you want to do it well, it takes time and that's fine. But to be able to enjoy the process as well.
Shalom Mayumi is an award-winning producer of our film series here in Japan called The Love Project, which has gone to over 100 film festivals in 27 nations. Today we're going to talk to Shalom, who speaks 5 languages, about learning the language of cinema and the power of film to connect with different people and cultures around the world. Shalom, welcome to Film Club.
Hi, it's so lovely to be here.
So Shalom, could you talk to us a little bit about your background? Before we get into film, just tell us what it was like growing up in Japan and what your language learning journey has been like.
Yeah, so my mom is mixed Japanese and she was born and raised here. I was born and raised here, and so had kind of English and Japanese growing up. And then when I was a teenager, I had an interest in learning Japanese Sign Language. So my younger sister and I started learning that. And then working with people from different countries made me realize that I kind of wanted to learn a bit more. So I went to Taiwan for several months and learned Chinese, and then followed by going to Korea and then learned Korean. And now I'm back here in Japan. And so, yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I love learning new languages. I find it fascinating because there's such a different way of expressing oneself in each language and the nuances. So it's a really beautiful thing, and I've been enjoying this process.
That's so cool. I can't even imagine all the different places you've been and just what it's been like learning all those different languages. One of the things that we like to talk about in the show is how filmmaking and learning the process of filmmaking is basically its own language. It's its own world. There's new words and there's new ways of putting things together. There's new concepts. And there's just so much that people don't realize that there is to learn about film until they actually have to learn the process. Can you describe what it was like for you starting out with the Love Project and learning about filmmaking on the fly as a producer, and any correlation that you have with language learning yourself?
It's a really good question. So I hadn't had any previous experience with producing. I think the organizational side of it I had, but the actual producing on a film set was very new to me. And so when Jamie was explaining certain things, I was like, I have no idea what is going on. But he was an amazing teacher, and he explained things very clearly and in detail. So it was just such a great learning experience, but really seeing the nuances that happen and things that I never even thought about when watching a film. And so now I can't even watch a film without I can't shut my brain off almost. I'm like, oh, and then this way, and the lighting and the sound. So it's really fascinating once your eyes kind of opened to see that side of the filmmaking process. And even working with such a multi-cultural, international group that we have also has been really interesting with the different languages and nuances. And I think also Jamie having come from the States, that was a very different way of doing things. So even him and I was very interesting with communication and also different nuances and the way that one expresses themselves, which was really interesting and a learning experience. And working with Japanese actors and then an international crew, again, kind of balancing the actual word languages and then also with the film lingo. So it was, yes, very, very interesting.
Yeah, how many nations would you say that we worked with when we were making the Love Project?
Oh, we had quite a lot. We've had people from France, the Philippines, Canada, Russia, the States, England, I think, Japan, obviously. Altogether, we had at one point 13 different nations on set. So there were just multiple cultures and multiple different people, such fascinating people as well on set. So it was a really enjoyable time.
Let's just assume for the moment that filmmaking is its own language. And if that's the case, I'm curious what kind of commonalities there are between the language of cinema, the language of storytelling, and just languages across the board. What sort of commonalities have you seen that maybe might apply to people that are learning the language of cinema for the first time?
I think yeah, being open and not to quickly get overwhelmed with all this jargon that you have no idea. And again, like Jamie said, it sounds like gibberish in the beginning, but just like, okay, what does this specifically mean to this? And just trying to put a definition to each word, basically. And yeah, even when we were working on the Love project together, Jamie was having to express himself or direct in a completely another language. So I take my hat off to him. Not only was he learning Japanese, but he was learning cinematic Japanese to communicate with the actors. But yeah, even seeing that of like, okay, how do we use this? Okay, we want to use this terminology in film, but how do we adequately express that to people who don't know film, who are learning film, or who are interested in it? How can one understand that? How can one explain that a bit better? So there's a lot of, I think, grace that is needed, and yeah, just an interest. I think most people get into film because you're interested, and so giving grace to yourself and to one another that it will take time, but not to lose heart that, like, I don't understand anything and give up, but just actually like, okay, it just takes time with anything. If you want to do it well, it takes time, and that's fine, but to be able to enjoy the process as well.
One of the things that we talk about on this channel is how learning filmmaking and learning storytelling is like progressive. And I think anybody that learns a language would agree that like once you learn the basics, like with Japanese, learning hiragana, learning katakana, then learning kanji, that everything kind of builds on itself, right? So at this point, having been the film producer for 8 original short films that we've made right here in Japan, and all of your experience, how has that changed your view of cinema and your ability to process movies and stories and even how to make a film?
There's so much more involved than I thought. I thought it was you get a camera, you just shoot it in the order that you see the film, and then it's done, But there's, pre-production, there's production, post-production, and just seeing the different, again, because Jamie and I were the only two, basically, who were there from the start to finish. We really had to wear a lot of hats. And so that also gave me the opportunity to really actually get involved with each step of the process, and seeing, in pre-production, what are all the things that need to be done in order to be ready for production? And then production, what are the things that need to happen? Communication with the actors, with the crew, with the locations, and, all sorts of things. And then again, in post-production, what are all the steps that need to happen in order to complete the film at the end? And so that was, I think, really interesting for me, a huge learning curve, and grace from Jamie for allowing me to learn on the job, thrown into the deep end here. But yeah, I find it really fascinating. I can't really watch a film now just like I used to. I kind of can't shut off my brain. I'm like, okay, they must have done it this way, and okay, and the lighting and the angle, and so I find it interesting now to just kind of watch films with a new light, in a new light, and from a new perspective, knowing the work that goes into behind the scenes.
You are an incredible student, so it's been a pleasure to work with you, and you've been amazing from the first film. You really have. You've been amazing and very teachable and so open and so eager, and you've only done better and better and more amazing work all the way up until Story 8. So I can't wait to work with you all the way through the end of the Love project and on to the next one.
Yes, it's been a crazy up and down roller coaster of a journey and an adventure, but very, very thankful to be on this adventure with you, and here's to many more.
If you want to keep learning the language of cinema, like me and Shalom, you're going to want to check out this video to step up your filmmaking game and take your storytelling to the next level.